powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
All right, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Adam Caplan, he's back. It's brought to you by Jersey Shore Federal Credit Union. Make the switch and bank with your only community credit union. Jersey Shore Federal Credit Union offers some of the lowest loan rates around, including refinancing. Learn more at JerseyShoreFCU.org. Let's bring him in. Adam Caplan's back. Football at 4. We got the intel today that you need for Sunday right here on the Sports Bash. And don't forget the Inside the Birds pregame show this Sunday with the fellas on the Inside the Birds social media platforms. Adam, what time are you guys launching the pregame show Sunday?
Yeah, Mike, good to be with you. Yeah, it's 10 a.m. to 12 p. We're back to our normal time. This will get you ready. In fact, if you're going to the game, obviously listen to this. If you're tailgating, listen to it. We get to you well before the pregame show start everywhere else. So we're the first one to do it. And we had a massive number last week. We really appreciate the support. And we appreciate you you guys having us on, no question about it. And can't wait for this game. This is the game I was really hoping for, Mike, quite frankly, because the Cowboys would have been fun just because they're from their same division. Everybody hates them. That's great. But I wanted the Eagles to play the best team, and this is clearly the best team they could possibly face.
All right, let's get some intel on the tape against the Giants. What did we see when we had the Eagles offense on the field? Why were they so impressive? Now that you got a chance to look it over and things that you're hearing, what was so impressive about the Eagles offense? Because they were nearly flawless, it looked like anyway, in terms of execution, play calling, and obviously result.
One little piece of breaking news here. Eagles just sent us their injury report. Only 2 players listed. No one else is actually listed on other than Lane Johnson, who did get some work in today. Could have been individual work, but he was on the field working. And Avonte Maddox started working his way back. Still, he's got to show he can run, stop, and start. He'll have to be more than limited to be able to play. But this is a good sign, Mike. Everyone else on the 53-man roster practiced today, so that's good news.
Yeah, there you go. Maddox is the one guy that didn't play last week that we're still kind of waiting on. It'll be interesting to see what they do if they go back to him full time. Does he have, carte blanche to get back on the field? How they kind of use those guys. But all right, let's look at the Eagles' offense and why they were so successful. Execution, like we said, they executed and dominated. What did you see on tape?
Yeah, based on what we were told is, Mike, it was kind of like the Giants had no energy for the game, like they expended it the week before. And I mentioned this on our show this morning. Very clear that the bye week, the Eagles coaches from both sides of the football got great work in. They just put together a great game plan, both sides of the football. Offensively, we'll get started with there. Yes, they took the big shot play, which is what they do. Their air yards numbers are pretty high. They're against everyone. They're going to throw the ball deep. This is what they do. First years they came out 5 passes, 3 running, but they blew the Giants off the ball. In fact, I've not seen holes like this since the Green Bay game, and it all started with a run game, and they didn't stop doing it because the Giants couldn't stop the run. In fact, very few times did they. I think you had that number yesterday, Mike, that you'd seen about the Eagles had over 4 yards before contact.
Yep,
that's really embarrassing for a defense.
Yeah, 4.3 yards a carry before contact. In that game on Sunday. And obviously, Kelsey, I think, we look at him and the interior, what those guys can do and how they really change the dynamics of maybe even this game because, San Francisco is very good against the run, but I want to get your opinion on this, Adam. How many teams are strong in the interior of their line, right? I mean, not like Dallas is not a strong center guard tandem team, so you can win in the middle of that line, and I think that's imperative for San Francisco to be able to stop the Eagles' run is to win in the middle of that line. When you look at what the Eagles' interior line did, Kelsey, Dickerson, and Sayamalo, they really won that battle.
Mike, I'm to the point with Jason Kelsey. I mean, obviously, if he wants to play, they'll bring him back. That's not the question. But at this point, I'm not him, and we've done some reporting on Jason's situation the last couple of years and how both sides felt about coming back and all that. It's to the point, Mike. Why would he retire? Right now, we're going to ask Greg Cosell and Jason Avantis on the pregame show. is he the best center in football at 35? That's how great he is. I know there are plenty of good centers, but this guy is so elite. Every once in a while, yeah, because he's not the biggest guy, he might be moved a little bit by the D tackle, but it's rarely happened this season, Mike. He's still elite. I'm just kind of in awe of this situation. And also, I want to mention Lane Johnson. Also, not only did he not give up a pressure, but he moved a lot better than you think he would move. Now, I know Nick Bosa is probably going to line up against him a lot, and right now he's maybe the NFL's best edge rusher. That's going to be a matchup to watch on Sunday afternoon. That's going to be a tough one for Lane because Kayvon Thibodeau is an eighth of the player and that's not a knock on him, but he's just not Nick Bosa. This is going to be a very tough matchup, and I'm very interested to see how Lane holds up with that injury.
This is a heavy RPO team, by the way.
Yeah.
Philadelphia's. How does the RPO match up? The linebackers of the Giants last week, I think they had some problems with it, but these are different linebackers. How does the RPO? You saw what they did on tape to the the Giants. Does that translate to this game?
Well, the thing is, first of all, yes, they other than Kyler Murray, they really haven't gone against a lot of quarterbacks like Hurts who could run with the RPOs. The RPOs will be there. This is what we were calling for in our Friday preview show. Let's go bring back the RPO. Of course they did. The number is pretty high, and they're really good at it. So I would expect you're going to see that. Now, Fred Warner's incredible. He's the best off-the-ball linebacker in football. He's incredible. Dre Greenlaw's a terrific athlete, best maybe off-the-ball tandem in football. Al Shire, the other linebacker, is a good football player. They'll have their keys. They'll know what to expect, but they're not. There's no way they're going to be perfect. Yes, they faced this last year in week 2. Hurts got them later in that game. One thing I do want to mention, I'm kind of laughing at the changes on both teams. The Eagles had 8 starting changes. The Niners had 7 since week 2 last year. And be careful that I know both teams will look at the tape, but you can't really get much out of it because so much has changed between both quarterbacks and both teams. But when you really look at it, Mike, with the situation here with Hurts, they saw him last year. He went 10 for 82. In fact, Kyle Shanahan mentioned that today in his press conference. He impacts everything a defense has to do with the run-pass option because they have to react to it.
Adam Caplan, Football at 4, Inside the Birds podcast and the Inside the Birds pregame show. Don't forget. I'm interested, too, the Eagles wide receivers. We know A.J. Brown did not have a huge game the other day. Devonta Smith had the bigger game. San Francisco seems to be better against teams' number 1 receivers than they are against the team's number 2. But CeeDee Lamb had 10 catches over 100 yards. Yeah. The Dallas Cowboys don't really have a serviceable number 2. How did the wide receivers last week for Philly? It looked like Smith constantly won there, but can he win again this week?
Yeah, and understand with CeeDee Lamb, he's really a slot receiver that they motion to the slot. He'll play some outside, but he's more of an inside receiver. That's phenomenal running after the catch. See, what's going to happen here, Mike, when you look at what the Eagles will do, I heard you made a good point. I heard your segment before I came on. I know Quez Watkins has done nothing for one, and Pascal's kind of surpassed him because when they want to run, Pascal's going to be in there. And they decided right after the first series that they saw what they liked and they stayed with the run. I still think that Quez Watkins, because he's the fastest guy they have, and the Niners will give up shot plays. Teams, the one thing you can do is throw deep against them. Why not take, if they can protect, and protecting is going to be huge. The Niners have a great defensive front, a great scheme. They play a ton of wide 9. They're right up there. They're top 3 in wide 9, by the way. Wait to see how far out Bosa is when they go to Nick. He's like really out there. And by the way, the guy who's their D-line coach, Chris Kuceric, is a Jim Schwartz disciple. He was choosing between Philly kind of and the Niners like 5 years ago. He went with the Niners after he left Detroit, and he's phenomenal. And they really bring it, man. They don't have obviously the Eagles sack numbers, but if you can protect, you got to throw. And we know the Eagles are going to do that. This is what they do. They take deep shots, and they're fearless with it, which is one of the things I really respect about their coaching staff.
Yeah, wide 9. Let's get into that real quick because Nick Bosa, 18.5 sacks, but he ranked 180th in the league among 195 qualified players in run-stop win rate. So is that number meaningful in this one?
Well, you always know, Mike, when wide 9 DNs, their job is to get upfield, not to stop the run. It's Fred Warner, who fills very, very well. Their tackles are real. They're long and athletic. Kinlaw is a guy that you have to be concerned about when he's healthy, which is now. He's gotten a lot healthier. He's terrific. Eric Armstead is a load up front. He's tall at 6'7". He's a phenomenal. Chip Kelly, I believe, had him at Oregon. He's really good. You know who plays snaps for them? You might remember, and this guy's been on a lot of teams. T.Y. McGill, former Eagle.
Yeah, tackle.
He's their fourth. Yep. He's their fourth tackle. You might remember Kevin Givens from Penn State. He's in there. They've got a great rotation. In fact, the guy who was doing really well for them before he suffered his biceps injury is Hassan Ridgeway, who was their third tackle, but he's out on injured reserve. So some ex-Eagles will be a factor in this game. Ebu Cam on the other side of Bosa. Now, what they do, Bosa lines up on the left side more than the right side, but they will flip him for matchup purposes. If you watch the first series last week, he actually flipped. He flipped in series on the first series. So, and boy, in nickel when he gets down there, man, Nick Bosa is unbelievable. Nobody has better bend than this guy. This guy is going to give. He's going to give the Eagles a tremendous challenge.
Oh, yeah, no question. So let's look at the Eagles' defense, though, all right, against the Giant offense.
Yeah.
Giants' offense is limited, but what did John Gannon do this past week? What did you see on tape that maybe he did, if he did anything different?
Yeah, what I liked what he did was, I wouldn't quite call it press coverage. They were up closer to the line. Reed Blankenship had a great game. They used him as an in-the-box safety. They moved him way up. Not all the time, but they did move him up at times. He took away Bellinger. Now, I want to apply some of our talk today to this matchup. Okay, we know George Kittle's numbers are absurd against the Eagles in 2 games, 19 for 19. We kind of laughed when we came up with that stat last year. He is unbelievable in the middle of the field. I'm very interested to see what the Eagles are going to do against Kittle, because you've got the deepest pass target group of the NFL when you include McCaffrey. The Eagles were not challenged last week. The Eagles had a great scheme. You're not playing the same scheme. The Niners are not a super big shot play team. They're run after the catch, intermediate area. This is going to be a different challenge here for the Eagles again. And I know it was week 2 last year, but again, with George Kittle with 4 for 4, only 17 yards. That was not the big thing, but it was that Sunday night game in 2020 when he went 15 for 15.
Yes, the Kittle, how the Eagles, what they decide to do with him, I think is very interesting. And this goes back to where, you brought up Maddox. Does he return? Do they put Gardner Johnson at safety and kind of have him on Kittle? Does Maddox get Kittle? Do they keep Blankenship out there? I mean, that is an interesting decision John Gannon will have on what to do with Kittle. Is he going to try a linebacker on him? Because their personnel is not great for Kittle.
Yeah, a couple things here. First of all, Maddox, they didn't practice today. They had a walkthrough. They only do walkthroughs on Wednesday, no matter how much time they have off. It's kind of funny. Coming out of their bye, they still did a walkthrough and not practice on Wednesday. I thought that was interesting. So, yeah, here's the thing with Maddox. He's got it. We were talking about this yesterday. And Sirianni, sometimes I kind of roll my eyes sometimes when he talks about injuries because he over-exaggerates stuff. He's not with Maddox. He nailed it. Based on our reporting on this and Jeff's report that he had a month ago, he had a procedure done on his toe. Mike, he's got to be able to stick that injured foot, I don't know which one it is, and with that toe, and stop, start, run, and chase, because remember, they play mirror match coverage. He's got it. He's still got to show he can practice well. Tomorrow will be his first day if he does practice at all. He's still a long shot, but I'll tell you what, if he has a full practice, we got a shot to have him back this week as we evaluate this game here. But so what do I think will happen if Maddox doesn't play? It's still going to be like we've seen here. I don't see that changing. Gardner Johnson and Nichols are slot corner. And whatever base you want to call it is Gardner Johnson's at safety. But, man, Kittle is a big dude who's super athletic, and he's one of the best all-around tight ends in football. They have to have a plan for him. I would think maybe Kaiser White, because you're not worried about – Purdy's a scrambler. He's not a runner. You're not worried about Purdy. What you're worried about is – the middle of the field, because they work it like no other team. They're super big on – it's an old-school West Coast offense. A ton of slants, a run after the catch. They got it, and they cannot let these guys run free over the middle, Mike. Ayuk is phenomenal. Samuel, Juwan Jennings when they go to their 3 wide package, and Kittle, then obviously McCaffrey out of the backfield. That's another plan they have to have.
Yeah, and the one thing is, too, I want to get your thoughts because in the tape, the safeties played well, Blankenship, more down in the box. If he has to play a lot in this game, is that a problem?
Well, here's the great thing about him. Whatever they tell him to do, he's a pretty good executor. If he just sometimes late a little bit, because he's just not the foot athlete, he might be an eighth of a second late. But so far, for the most part, it hasn't really impacted them, and some of it's because of matchups. Last week, he just was super effective getting downhill and taking everything away over the middle, and also good against the run. But this is a unique challenge. When you really look, Mike, at the Eagles' schedule this season, this should be from an opponent's pass target group. Jacksonville, you can eliminate because that was a rain game. Minnesota, that was week 2. Minnesota had a good group, but nothing like this. As I go through it, Aaron Rodgers was hurt, but they didn't have this group. This is by far the best group of pass targets they're going to go against.
No doubt about it. Adam Caplan, you got Debo, you got Ayuk, you got Kittle, you got McCaffrey. Don't forget about him, by the way, out of the backfield. You got Debo running the ball. You got McCaffrey running the ball. You got Elijah Mitchell, who adds some flair to their offense as well. Jennings caught a pass, big catch in that game on 3rd down for them last game as well. They got weapons all over. And as you said, Adam, they run old school West Coast. You don't see this style of offense all that much. So this is definitely a challenge trying to figure out the Eagles style, like they like to play on defense, and how that matches up with what San Francisco likes to do. That's a chess match.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I know this Niners team pretty well, and just talking to people there, they play a specific style, and they really stick to it. These crosser routes are killer. Ayuk is phenomenal at it. So Samuel. You mentioned Samuel out of the backfield, and they don't have a power back because they missed on Trey Sermon, who, by the way, is an Eagle. And obviously, Sermon could help them a little bit. The thing is with this offense, they're not a grinded out carry team. They don't do that. They'll split it between McCaffrey and Mitchell. Mitchell, when they get a lead, it's really bizarre. He's their closer. He's not a big guy. He's only around 200 pounds, if that. And Samuel's a change up as a running back. When they put him back there, obviously he's a dynamic receiver. But the shot play guy will be Ayuk. That's when they take them. And then there's one. I doubt that it'll happen. They've done it a couple times, but he doesn't play receiver very much. Ray McLeod, you might remember him from Clemson. He's a former Steeler. He's their special teams returner. I saw this at training camp, and they've done it a couple times this season. He will be a shot play guy if they get the right look. See, the Eagles, this is such a unique team because you've got a really good offensive line, not as good as the Eagles, but an outstanding tackle pair. You've got a quarterback who's a scrambler, doesn't have a great arm, but great at being accurate with throws over the middle. And it's just they have to play their keys real well. I'm interested to see if they bring heat against Purdy because, yes, he's 7-0, but this is the playoffs here. This is the championship game. This is a guy who should not even be playing. I know he's played fairly well. And Gannon he called a great game last week. I'm so interested to see it because you can't really, I don't know if you can press these guys, but what are you going to do to make sure you do the best? You can't take all the crosses away, Mike, but what are you doing to disrupt the timing a little bit?
Great. Purdy's story is obviously a huge one in this game as well. Adam Caplan, I'll leave you with this before we take a quick look at the AFC game from you because you're done for the week. Of the weapons San Francisco have, which one worries you the most?
If I'm the Eagles, McCaffrey, because how devastating he can be in the pass game. Run game, he's a good football player. I mean, very good football player. It's the pass game, wheel routes, screens, where he sets everything up. Then he goes. He's got jets. He's got incredible explosion. And then Kittle. The two guys who would worry me would be Kittle over the middle. Yes, 19 for 19 in his career against the Eagles. But Kittle on tight end screens, what we call the hide screen or the tunnel screen. The hide screen's what the Rams do, where Tyler Higbee will hide, but he'll get low and he'll wait for the lineman to get lined up, and then he'll hide behind them, and he'll accelerate. Or the tunnel screen, which is more in the middle. Or then, of course, over the middle on a crosser, Now, a lot of times, by the way, Kittle's like the fourth passing option, and nobody covers him, and then he runs for like 30 or 40 yards. He's super explosive. This is a coaching game. Coaches have to come up with a great game plan for them to win this game. I'm telling you, I'm leaning towards the Eagles here, but it's not by a lot. I know people are getting on me for me hedging my bet this morning on our show. I'm giving total respect to the Niners here. They're a great football team. They're super well coached, but so are the Eagles.
All right, Adam Caplan, don't forget, Inside the Birds podcast and the Inside the Birds pregame show Sunday morning at 10 and football at 4. Andrew Mosher, rest of the week, 4 o'clock right here on the Sports Bash. Adam, we'll talk to you next week, pal.
All right, man. Thank you.
Adam's back for football at 4 next week here on the Sports Bash.